Hey Alexis community, it's Tanner Master, and welcome to another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duels What's in the BoGX. Today, we will be focused on the only female character that will likely be in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Duel Academy box. I think I got that right. Speed Duels Duel Academy box, there we go. And that is one Alexis. I believe her last name is Rhodes. Alexis Rhodes. So Alexis Rhodes is known for two things really in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. The first is her fusion monster used in Season 1, Cyber Blader. So obviously I believe we're going to get Cyber Blader. It's an iconic Alexis card, and it has different effects depending on how many monsters your opponent has on the field, between 1, 2, or 3. And that's perfect for speed duels because there's only 3 monster zones, so one of the 3 effects will always be active. Actually, I think so if it's only 1 monster, then it can destroy a battle. So that's can be pretty good, right? Because your opponent can just have 1 monster, tribute over it with a monarch that's greater than 2100 and run over your Blader. Your opponent only controls 2 monsters, you double its attack. So again, if they have 2 monsters, it's got insane potential to just like completely run over something and do big damage. And then when your opponent has 3 monsters, you negate pretty much all their card effects. So that's actually insane, but again, it's tough to get your opponent on 3 monsters, so there's that to worry about, that to deal with. This can actually be combined pretty decently with like ways, any kind of way that we already have in speed duels. I can't think of one right now, or may get, like with Ojama, preview a future episode coming up, that could give your opponent monsters or restrict the number of monsters they can summon or have on their zones. So I'm looking at my microphone as I say things, so I should be looking at the camera. But yeah, so any kind of manipulation of your monsters that your opponent controls will be really good with this card. And I think because it's so iconic, obviously you need the pieces for it, which is Blade Skitter, a vanilla monster, and Etoile Cyber? I'm going with Etoile Cyber. And it has a very niche effect of it gains attack if it attacks directly, which is, whatever. But the point here is I think Cyber Blader should have a skill with it, and the skill should either allow you to summon Cyber Blader ignoring summoning conditions, since Konami loves to print ignoring summoning conditions on cards, or it should make Cyber Blader's effects easier to have active one way or another. So either way, I think one of those two or both of those things can make a Cyber Blader skill be really good and playable. Alright, let's move on to the next segment of Alexis, which is Cyber Angels. And we start with the only support monster that's specifically a Cyber Angel. It is Cyber Petite Angel. If it's summoned, that's normal, special, or flip. Right, you can add a Cyber Angel monster or Machine Angel ritual from your deck to your hand, so it searches either the monsters or the ritual, whatever it is you need. It's only once per turn, so you can't find a way to summon special one Petite Angel and then normal another. It's not going to work like that, so don't do that. However, still really good card. Let's move on to the ritual monsters themselves, the search targets from Petite Cyber Angel. First, you've got Ben 10, which is so good in the TCG that it's limited. That's because I think it's used generically there, not just with Cyber Angels. So anyway, if it destroys a monster at battle, first of all, you do burn damage according to the monster's defense, which is good, but again, situational, requires destruction by battle, so fine to have this burn effect. But the big effect of Ben 10 here is the second part, which is a lot more generic, and which means if it's tributed, you add a light fairy monster from your deck to your hand. Now, Petite Cyber Angel is a light fairy, as are all the other Cyber Angels, so it's essentially a search for any light fairy monster, or your entire deck if you're playing Cyber Angels. And there's a lot of light fairy monsters that we have in speed duels right now as well. Let me actually pull that up. This, I have it now, can allow you to search not only for the Cyber Angels, but can allow you to also search for things like Parshath, Angel 07, Banisher of the Radiance, I don't think anyone's going to play Banisher Light, Dimensional Alchemist, Guardian Angel Joan, whatever, Moisture Creature, again, whatever. Senju, to go ahead and search your monsters again while having a much bigger body on it than the Petite Angel does. Scale Angel, whatever, that's not going to work. So the big targets I see here are potentially Parshath, Angel 07, Banisher, Dimensional Alchemist, and Senju. those are potentially good generic targets you can do with Ben 10 if you're tributing it off. I don't know how exactly a deck with any of those would function, so we'll have to see. Really, mostly it's probably just going to be used for the Cyber Angels for now. Speaking of which, Dakini is the next one I want to talk about, and that's because Dakini is monster removal. So if you tribute your Ben 10, let's say something else, 10 to summon Petite Angel, so you can go Petite Angel into Ben 10 and then get your Dakini. And we also already have pre-prep in Speed Duels, which is kind of insane if you think about it. So there's this deck, if we get the Petite Angel, could have insane amounts of searchability with Ben 10 there too. So Dakini makes your opponent send a monster they control to the graveyard, and it does piercing damage. And in addition to that, during your end phase, it generates more advantage by adding a ritual monster or Machine Angel ritual in your graveyard to your hand. So if it survives until the end of the turn that's summoned, that's actually advantage. And if it survives until the end of the next turn, it gains you more advantage. So it becomes a really emergency kind of card for your opponent to remove as soon as possible. Then we've also got E to 10. E to 10 does two things. If it's summoned, you search a ritual spell, so that's really good. Summoned 1600 body, you can tribute Ben 10 to summon E to 10, and then you've not only searched a spell from E to 10's effect, but you've also searched a light fairy from Ben 10's effect, so that's actually a really, really insane combo. Also, if it's tributed, you can just use it for an attack boost as well. So if you actually desperately need an attack boost, for example, you can put Dakini at 3700, which will make it swing over a Moth even, right? So if you tribute the E to 10 to summon the Dakini, even if your opponent has two mods, you made them send one to the GY, and now you can directly run over one. I said GY instead of graveyard. Look at me sounding like a card text. Alright, the final Cyber Angel that I think is likely to be in the box, because there's one more down there, we'll get to in a second, and that's Cyber Angel Izana. Now Izana is similar to Dakini in that it's got high attack, 25, 27 for Dakini. It's got really high defense, which is what separates it from Dakini actually. Dakini's defense is only 24. I say only. So Izana actually has 2600 defense, which means it can, stand up to a lot more things than Dakini can. Like for example, if you were to get 2500 monsters be kind of staples introduced in the format, it could stand up to something like that instead of just crashing with it in attack mode. If it's ritual summoned, your opponent sends a spell or trap to the graveyard instead of a monster with Dakini. If it attacks a monster and destroys it by battle, you can make a second attack on an opponent's monster in a row. So you can't use this ability to attack directly, but you can use it to clear all your opponent's monsters if they have multiple monsters. And then if your opponent activates a card effect that targets a Cyber Angel monster you control, you shuffle a ritual monster from your graveyard into your deck and destroy one card your opponent controls. That's really, really good, because targeting effects are kind of common in Speed Duels right now. You've got Book of Moon, XYZ Dragon Cannon, Parasite Paranoid, right? So whenever something like that activates and attempts to hit Izana, or if you control more than one Cyber Angel with the other Cyber Angel, you can at least pop an opponent's card before their effect resolves. So that actually can be really, really good and generate you a lot of advantage off your opponent's effects. Alright, and I do want to talk about this real quick before we move on to the spells. So this is Cyber Angel Rash. And the reason I have this in the side deck and have it as kind of unlikely is because, first of all, immediately on summon, it will be an instant counter to fusion monsters. So it destroys anything special summoned from the extra deck. And then it also does burn damage on that. So giving such a hard counter when we already have one in Lost Wind to extra deck summons, I don't think is a route we should go if we want a fusion heavy meta. So it's by that logic for one reason, and for the second reason is obviously the burn damage. We don't need any more like insta burn kind of effects in Speed Duels, in my opinion. So that's another thing. And then it's also so aggressive. Because if you resolve that first effect, it can make a second attack during each battle phase during this turn. And then, in addition to that, it essentially has Izana's reaction effect, except in response to destruction, not target. It also negates the destruction. So overall, this is actually kind of an insane card that you won't be able to use card effect destruction on it, for one thing, as long as they have ritual monsters in the graveyard, which they should if they're summoning this. And then it's so aggressive in both burn damage and being able to attack twice. I just think it's kind of too much for where we are in Speed Duels right now, and where I'm hoping Speed Duels will be after the box, which is less OTK heavy format. Giving a card like this kind of encourages that OTK more rather than less. So there's my logic on that. Let's talk about the spells now. We've got Machine Angel Ritual. I'll talk about this one first because it's a generic one. Tribute monster in the field, generic effect, same old, same old. And then the big thing about this card is that if a light monster you control be destroyed by battle or card effect, you banish this card from your graveyard. That is actually so good because it, say for example, I tribute Ida-10 and something else to summon Izana, right, with Machine Angel Ritual. Now Izana's 3500, my opponent has a perfect ultimate Great Moth. They crash. However, they don't actually crash. That was a lie, because Machine Angel Ritual can then banish itself in the graveyard to protect your Izana, and now you just run over a perfectly ultimate Great Moth. Insane. Alright, let's talk about Machine Angel Absolute Ritual as well, which is really good, because it doesn't make you tribute stuff. It doesn't make you exclusively tribute stuff, my bad. You can also shuffle fairy or warrior monster from your graveyard into your deck as part of the ritual summon, so it makes you use up less resources from your hand and field. So that's why this card is really good, but I think the Machine Angel Ritual is still the big one you'd want to focus on, since you're hoping to tribute Ben 10 for a lot of that anyway, so you can generate value constantly off of that, and then obviously the monsters you summon can generate value themselves. Alright, let's talk about another piece of spell support that's not directly a ritual spell. That's Incarnated Machine Angel. Cyber Angel monsters, first of all, cannot be destroyed by battle. That in itself is huge. Like, it takes away one avenue for your opponent to run over your Cyber Angels. Insane. And then when you take damage by battle or card effect, mind you, so this thing works on burn damage, you can tribute a Cyber Angel ritual monster from your hand or field and special summon one from your hand. So you're essentially quick ritual summoning. Now this is kind of niche, right? However, imagine with me for a second if I was to open 2 Ben 10s and a ritual spell, or a way to search the ritual spell, right? I activate the ritual spell, I tribute 1 Ben 10, summon another, right? That Ben 10 allows me to search Dakini, and then if I activate Incarnated Machine Angel, now if they attack my Ben 10 and I take damage, oops, I'm tributing that Ben 10 to summon my Dakini, and their monster's gone. That's really, really good, and if I'm summoning Dakini in their battle phase, it makes it, I think, a little bit more likely that it survives through to the end of my next turn to give me that advantage further. So, probably won't be played at more than 1, and shouldn't, let's be honest. But I think it could be a good tech in Cyber Angel decks. Could be. Merciful Machine Angel is, I think, must-have for Cyber Angel decks, as you tribute a Cyber Angel ritual monster, which could, obviously trigger your Ben 10, right? Or your Ida-10 if that's what you really want. Then you draw 2 cards and place 1 card from your hand or bottom of your deck. So it allows you to cycle through your deck and trigger your Ben 10, which is really the big one that you want to trigger off of this, right? It does have the good restriction, which is you can't special summon monsters except ritual monsters. So that prevents it from being used for generic other decks. Like Moth Cyber Angels isn't going to happen with Merciful Machine Angel as a draw engine, right? Because of this restriction here. So that's pretty good. And let's go to the non Cyber Angel specific cards. I have a couple of those. First is a spell, since we're on the spells, the field spell Ritual Sanctuary. You discard a spell, add a light ritual monster or a ritual spell from your deck to your hand. This is really good because yes, the ritual monster, if you search for one, has to be light. However, the ritual spell, you can search for literally any ritual spell in Yu-Gi-Oh! So that could have potential applications otherwise. I mean, obviously pre-prep is better for generic. However, this does have other effects as well. You shuffle a number of spells from your graveyard into your deck, then target a light fairy monster who equals the number of cards you shuffled, special summon it. So potentially some late game value here. Obviously, you'd have to have a very, 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 very spell heavy deck in order to use an effect like that, because whatever you're using is, level 6 or level 8, the ritual monsters I have here. So it's a very late game advantage. However, because of that, it might not be bad to play one of a Ritual Sanctuary in a Cyber Angel deck. We'll see how the deck comes together. I've also got Dijin, Presider of Ritual here, and I think it's time for us to get another Jin card. Is it Dijin or is it Jin? Whatever. So again, it's level 4, and it banishes itself from graveyard for a requirement for the Ritual Summon. It's also an 1800 beater, which is better than the Jin we already have in Speed Duel, so it can also be useful like as a field presence as well. In addition to that, the effect it has for the Ritual monster, if you Ritual Summon using it, is that if you destroy the monster in battle, you get to draw a card. Not bad at all for something like that. It can potentially generate advantage. I just think it's time we're going to get one. I don't see it being played a lot, honestly, in Cyber Angels, but again, I'm just throwing all the Ritual support in this episode, since this episode is going to be pretty short otherwise. But yeah, guys, that's the Alexis predictions. There's not a lot there because Alexis isn't really known a lot throughout most of GX. Like there's that like weird Society of Light duel where she played like some ice cards, but she never really played a lot of those again. So I don't think that should be associated with her necessarily over one duel. So yeah, that's my thought process on that. Let me know if you disagree or think otherwise, or there's something I missed for Alexis. But other than that, see you for the next episode. We're not done yet. Terra Master out.